Harish Salve, of course, is the number one legal voice in this country, known widely across the world. Also has been the Solicitor General of India. Mr. Salve, thank you very much. It's been a while since we spoke, but I'm very happy to see you. Mr. Salve, unfortunate times. We're speaking once again in unfortunate times. But Mr. Salve, this is a matter that has reached a criticality. The Supreme Court has suo motu taken action, taken note. Tomorrow the CBI will file its report, its interim report. But there is one question that stares back at us. Has Bengal come to that pass where we can confidently say that the provisions of Article 356 are attracted, that President's rule must be imposed? Or does the situation need to still obtain?
Let's take it step by step, Rahul. I have always been against 356. Let me tell you this. And there are lesser provisions in the Constitution which are which have never been used and which should be used. The President of India can issue a presidential directive to a state government to do or to not do certain things. And if those are violated, then comes 356. The trouble is we jump straight to 356, and which is what the courts have found objectionable. But there is something more which has been worrying me for quite some time. There was a time when the police was independent of its political masters. And any democracy runs on the pillars of its institutions. The edifice of democracy is held up by the pillars of its institutions. The civil service and the police are two vital institutions. Democracy has no meaning if there's anarchy, and the rule of law is put on a back burner as it is done frequently in India. The rot began in 1970s, and I have no qualms now in making a politically controversial statement if necessary. I was a young man then when the Bombay police, which was known for its professionalism, turned away from professionalism, and that was Antale's time. God bless his soul, but that's where the trouble started. And then different states, the police has become a tool for the political class. And that is worrisome, that is dangerous. So that is one thing which worries me. The second thing which worries me, and that is also a matter of no less concern, that we as a people, it's such a moral law, that even on a matter of this kind, the political class can't come to a consensus. It is still A versus B.
Yes.
Two things have happened in West Bengal, and let's not conflate the two. One flows from the other, but there are two distinct things which have happened. An absolute dastardly act was committed, a ghastly offense is being committed. And the law with its vigor must deal with the offense. But there is something else also which has happened, the collapse of institutions. And the collapse of institutions puts a question mark on public faith in democracy. Look at our youngsters today. Our doctors are not hooligans. Our doctors are not trade unionists. To become a doctor, you have to, it's by the sweat of your brow, by burning your midnight oil, by your parents' hard work and money, etc. We all know what it takes to become a doctor today. And all these are middle-class children who've worked hard, who've given their blood, as it were, to come into this position. If they are saying we are not going to work, this is not a trade union class in which some politically motivated trade union leaders have got people to go on strike.
True.
If these people, if this class, if this educated middle class loses faith in our institutions, that is the real threat to the Indian Constitution. And that is what worries me. We need to get to the bottom of this. And I suggested one way is under the Commission of Inquiries Act, Parliament should pass a resolution appointing a commission of inquiry. And if the Bengal government is being made the victim of unfair politics, even that can be explored and exposed. Because we need what went wrong with the police, what went wrong with the institutions. And this cannot be resolved by political leaders of different genres coming on the streets and waving their hands and screaming out loud.
True.
On either side.
True.
We need to get to the bottom of this and find out where have we lost the essence of the rule of law and democracy.
So you talk about institutional collapse, which is a point very well made. And let me direct your attention to what's been happening in Bengal. Panchayat elections, for example. And the Supreme Court has stepped in. This is not something that I'm saying out of, the figment of my imagination. The Supreme Court came in and said that there is no level playing field. There was a time when certain number of seats went uncontested, Mr. Salve, because people were intimidated. So the very edifice of democracy, accountability, transparency is shaken. That's one. Then you had a situation where the courts have now said that law and order, the machinery, because of the complicity, call it what you want to, the police is just not responding to the public. It's not delivering what it is meant to be doing. There's corruption at the highest levels. Ministers, court, hands in the till. I'm not saying it, the courts have rubber-stamped everything that the investigations are doing. Now, given all of this, it is quite clear that the rot is very deep. How do we institutionally address this issue? You talked about a presidential directive. Can it be issued by the president without consultation? What's the process here?
So process is the president will ask the governor for a report. Mm-hmm. The governor will send a report. And if there are some specifics to be done to fix the system, the president can issue a directive of what should be done or should not be done and how the state is to be administered. Because let us not forget, while police is under the state, internal security, we are not now dealing purely with law and order. We are not purely dealing with public order. We are in a border state.
Yes.
And serious questions of internal security arise. And a federal government would be failing in its duty if it allowed one state to become, and I'm not saying it has become, to allow any state to become a rogue state, where the rule of law ends where the state begins. So I think this is a matter of utmost seriousness. And secondly, this calls for an in-depth investigation as to who called the shots. And believe me, before a commission of inquiry, to be finished in 4 months, once people are summoned and called and grilled as to who asked them to take, who gave the orders, who was in command, who was in touch with whom, call data records to be summoned, all these phones to be taken away. And to expect the CBI to do this, unfortunately in Bengal, you'll have a war between the local police and the CBI. Look at what they did to the Enforcement Directorate. I've been a trenchant critic of Enforcement Directorate and its methods and its penchant to go and arrest any and everybody. But surely the answer is not to get people to beat up the officers of the Enforcement Directorate.
It's true.
So this has been going on, and I think this calls for a high-level, in-depth inquiry, and for God's sake, for the present, leave the Supreme Court and the High Court out of this. Judges are not meant to conduct these inquiries. They will have to go by an affidavit filed by one side or an affidavit filed by another side. A inquisitorial process has to be resorted to. That is under the Commission of Inquiries Act, where notice will be issued to all the people against whom comments are to be passed, the Commissioner of Police, the Home Secretary, maybe even the Minister and the Chief Minister, and the leaders of the political parties. They will all be given notices. They will all be asked to express their views. The young doctors will be given an avenue to express their views. And I think that has to be done because we need to get to the bottom of this. We are laying the seeds of anarchy. Today it is state A, tomorrow it will be state B, day after it will be state C. And when we talk of high majorities, I'm reminded in a lighter way, and I'll tell you, I'm reminded of a comment which had been passed. I was Solicitor General that time, opposing the bail request by one of the gangsters in, I think he was from Bihar, where he had gunned down some 22 people and he was in jail. He fought the election and he won. And his lawyer told the judges he got 90% votes. And the judge's only reaction was, we are surprised. We thought he would have got 100% votes. Who the hell is going to vote against him? So
Yeah.
this is where we are getting to.
Yeah, and there are reprisals. I mean, we have seen reprisals after elections where one particular, and I'm not saying this is a pathology actually that is set in. It's come through from the left. It continues through this particular regime.
And I'll tell you, these are virals. They spread. They spread from state to state. The regime revenge, as we call it, one chief minister in, another chief minister out, the next one who comes in starts prosecuting the previous one, starting in the southern states. Now it is endemic. So I think a time has come, and maybe these young doctors have given us and the country a wake call. And if we do not deal with it now, God be with India.
Well, very well said, Mr. Salve. Very, very taken by this Commission of Inquiry Act because many people, in fact, just before this, Dr. Ranganathan, who is a doctor also, as it happens, was saying that he was a little disappointed the Supreme Court didn't go forward and perhaps ask for some sort of a SC constituted SIT or monitored SIT, because even if the CABI tomorrow comes out, as you yourself have said, with a report, the state government will say, well, you see, it's an instrument of the center. So what else do you expect?
Exactly.
So
that is why I have a retired judge of the Supreme Court lead a commission of inquiry, like we had after Rajiv Gandhi's death, we had after Mrs. Gandhi's death. We had commissions of inquiry with. And I don't think this incident is any less in its portent for the damage it can do to the ecosystem we are living in.
Well, Mr. Salve, thank you very much for speaking to us, for putting this very interesting, but perhaps very, very important suggestion out there for people to ponder. Let's close ranks. Let's push towards a commission of inquiry constituted under the Commission of Inquiry Act. Perhaps Parliament can take the lead, should take the lead, in fact. Thank you, Mr. Salve. I think we'll raise it, we'll elevate this. The media is there to do this. Thank you.